Well, it's been 2 years since I viewed SpongeCry.avi, and I'm far from recovering from such a shock after viewing the clip. My computer's been taken to Best Buy for repairs, and hopefully to have the SpongeCry.avi video eliminated from my PC forever. Hopefully it won't haunt the doorstep of my mind ever again. I should be getting a call from them by the end of the week, if not longer. And that would do my well-being a world of good to see that godforsaken video of SpongeBob crying and turning into a decomposing mess every 10 seconds gone forever. But one question lingers after I'd looked for the video clip that day. Who in the hell wrote, "One-time actions will be badly"? I went to a hacker friend of mine who was able to translate the gobbledygook that was in the video, and maybe he could tell me what it meant. He was much braver than I was to view SpongeCry.avi and asked me to leave the room. 17 years old and has a lot of valor. After that, he was my best friend and willing to do anything. I heard him say to me, "Dude, it's fine, you can come back in, video's not playing." After deciphering the text from the original SpongeCry video, which was indeed written in the style of a preschooler, here's what he said: "One-time actions will be deadly." I looked at him skeptically. "What the hell does that even mean?" I asked him. "The voice I heard in the video, that of SpongeBob's crying, was not Tom Kenny at all," he replied. "Well, that's all fine and dandy and everything, but what the hell does that have to do with the text you just translated?" He picked up his bottle of Pepsi that he had been drinking, took a swig, and placed the glistening wet bottle down on the desk. "Dude," he said calmly, "I'm getting to that. Don't worry. The shitty-looking scribble that I saw looked like it was written by a preschooler. It was too real to be CGI or used in any video editing software. It was written by a person on the actual animation cell, which would explain why the Crayola crayon writing looked too real. When we hit the road in Malibu into Los Angeles City looking for answers, my friend was planning to have the video analyzed and piece together a puzzle from when the video was made. So that wasn't Tom Kenny's voice?" I asked him as I watched the sun go down over the Malibu horizon as we drove. After all, it would be only 50 minutes until we reached Los Angeles. It was a woman's voice. Tom Kenny himself would not break down and cry like that intensely when he was doing an episode of SpongeBob. When you see SpongeBob crying in any episode, you know it's comical, but the woman who was heard crying in the place of Tom, something didn't seem right. He said, "After going to the police with the story, here's what they said. On this one episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, Tom Kenny, who had never missed a voice acting session in his life, took a sick leave and that episode had to be put on hold. A woman in her mid-20s, the same voice heard in the SpongeCry video, claimed that she was a family member of Tom and she could do any SpongeBob character voice known to man, especially SpongeBob, and asked the production crew, even Steven Hillenburg, the show's creator, if she could fill in for Tom while he was out sick. They didn't see any harm in doing that, but the one weird thing I couldn't put my finger on was, why would this woman ask the animation and audio crew to leave the room? Did she want to do this herself? Was she really that talented at animating and voice acting? Sure seemed like it, since nobody was allowed to enter the recording studio when the voice actors went, and since it was soundproof, this gave the woman a lot of time to do the cartoon. I also found out that this cartoon was originally going to be No Weenies Allowed, but this young woman had entirely different plans for this episode. She looked at the script, where she stood near the microphone where Tom Kenny originally stands, and was about to say her lines, and, for no apparent reason, she broke down crying, screaming, as if she was crying over a loss of a loved one or a family member dead from a heart attack. Again, nobody bothered her, nobody came in the studio, and it seemed like an eternity was actually 90 minutes. The woman came out of the studio looking and acting normal, even though she had teary-looking eyes, and ran into Bill Flabbergate, the voice talent behind Patrick Star. Flabbergate asked her, "You okay?" She told him that her tears were from her laughing too hard after reviewing the finished episode, and then smiled. Bill chuckled and commented on her doing a good job, and that was the end of the day. My friend's mother, who worked as a phone tapper for the LAPD, was able to identify the voice. The voice you heard in that clip was the ex-girlfriend of one of the animators at the Nickelodeon Animation Studios. She had been stalking the animator after he had gotten married. When he blew her off too many times, her actions became more and more erratic. She even went so far to kill and disembowel their poor dog. Other officers caught and arrested her for animal cruelty and stalking, my friend's mom told me. But why did the clip only last near 7 minutes? And the handwriting done by a preschooler, what was all that about? I asked. That message was written by the woman's 3-year-old son, as per her request. The cartoon itself was supposed to last 30 minutes, like any other SpongeBob episode. The other half of the cartoon became lost in the internet. It could be anywhere. The police commissioner who came into the office was carrying a cup of coffee for me, a soda for my best friend, and a bottled water for my friend's mom. I overheard you talking about that lost SpongeBob episode that was supposed to be filmed in place of No Weenies Allowed, he said, giving us our drinks. What do you know of the cartoon? I asked. I was feeling tired and hungry. The coffee gave me a little bit of an able perk to kind of get me going. I felt like I wanted to sleep for a damn year. Rumor has it that the episode never aired, and No Weenies Allowed was shown instead, which is a big load off everyone's shoulders. My 2 little daughters are big SpongeBob fans, and so am I. Anyway, I was reading an article on Yahoo which said that the cartoon you were talking about got circulated via mobile text message. So if anyone finds it, we can put an end to this mess, the police commissioner said. At that moment, when I thought that everything was working out fine, I felt my stomach freeze as I noticed a message displayed on my iPhone. 1 missed call. I was about to brush it off when I thought it was just another telemarketer trying to send me something, until I noticed an attached item that came with the message. What is it, man? My friend asked. He noticed a look of concern and confusion that I had on my face. I think I found the episode, I replied, my voice nearly fading. Open the video, the police commissioner said calmly. My friend's mom was anxious to see the other half of the cartoon. After the video roared to life, it didn't resume like a video they would see on YouTube when you go to part 2 or whatever. It showed the regular introduction, with Patchy the Pirate being his old jolly self, kids singing the SpongeBob SquarePants theme, and SpongeBob playing his flute with his nose. After the created by Steven Hillenburg line was displayed, I didn't hear any music, just the sound of a heart beating. Then very, very faintly, there was a news report audio clips. Authorities continued to release details of the murders. They still have no explanation as to why it all happened. Then I heard the sound of a woman repeatedly weeping softly, and was starting to get a little messed up. The clips continued. The medical examiner says that he expects to positively identify most victims. A file cabinet in the refrigerator, an open box. The police department continues to be flooded with calls from families of missing loved ones. Says he killed even more. Arrested on suspicion of mass murder. Some of the murders are at least have been committed outside of city limits. The title screen came up. SpongeBob Cried 2. A fucking sequel. Just as I remembered, SpongeBob was in his big red chair, all the furniture gone, and poor little Gary lying dead, lifeless, and mauled beyond recognition. I wanted to cry because I saw Gary dead. Poor little fella. My heart hurt for him, but I just tried to calm down. As SpongeBob continued to get more and more decayed, looking like a putrefied mess after every 10 seconds, he became what he cried. He stopped, turned, and looked at the viewer. His skin was already a murky-looking mess, and he looked more like a carry-on wearing a trademark shirt, shoes, and little red tie. All SpongeBob ever did in the first video was cry, but now he started to speak. So is this what it will take to talk to you, Evan? Evan was the name of the animators of the Nickelodeon Animation Studio for SpongeBob. Why couldn't it have been you to ask me as your wife instead of Stephanie? She doesn't love you. I love you. You love that stupid dog too more than me. I know it was stupid to turn you down in high school, but I was a stupid jerking girl back then. I didn't know any better. I was young and stupid. You happy? I wanted to be your lover, but I was too busy having my head up Eric's ass to even care. You're right. I was using Eric and making him look like an idiot. I wanted to marry him. But I was so young and stupid. You had every right to threaten me when I was messing with you and your family. It was my own damn fault for costing you a lover those years ago. I had a mental illness, but I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid you would hate me forever. But I guess you do, don't you? Georgia told me not to kill your beautiful dog, but I went on ahead and did it anyway. I killed your fucking Malmoot, baby. The reason why I told Georgia about it is I wanted her to know how sweet you were and how much I loved you, but I guess you're never gonna love me. Aren't you? Since I was pregnant with our child, and I knew you were never gonna love me. I just thought I'd ruin your life by ruining your favorite cartoon. SpongeBob nearly was decomposed. But as I said, this wasn't Tom Kenny's voice at all. This was a mentally insane woman who had been driven insane and driven away every boyfriend she had ever had because of her severe maniac depression. She never admitted it to anyone because she thought it would make her weak and everyone would leave her, and she would go from more popular to unpopular in the blink of an eye. When SpongeBob started to become a graveyard-like skeleton, and instead of his house started to decay from years of neglect, the wallpaper peeling off the wall, and Gary now a putrefied mess. My best friend, despite the fact that he remained calm, puked in a wastebasket after seeing Gary in a dark green puddle of slime and rotting flesh, and his shell now aged. Until you accept me back in your life, Evan, I'm going to continue to wreak havoc on you. The animators at your precious Nickelodeon Studios, your friends, your family, and your life in general. You don't deserve Stephanie! I'm sorry you hate me. I'm sorry you don't want me back in your life. I know we can only be friends. But I don't care if you hate me or not. I still love you. So does Georgia. So do all my friends. The next thing I remember seeing in the Savage cartoon was, as the crime became less intense and softened, oddly, SpongeBob's furniture returned to his house, materializing on demand, popping back up in place with a comical, cartoony sound. The wallpaper appeared in the inside of the pineapple like new. A light shined from above on the now rotting away puddle of sludge that was Gary, now bringing him back to life when I heard an angelic heavenly choir sing, and a soothing twinkling sound with stardust encircling him, returning him back to his normal happy little self. Gary was alive. Seeing him alive, but now on the floor where he once lay dead, was now producing his cute little snoring meows. The little guy was tired. SpongeBob himself started to come back to life, from being a rotten, putrefied skeleton to his normal spongy self. SpongeBob was still sad. He went over to where his sleeping snail was and gave him a little kiss on one of his eye stalks, and walked back to his bedroom. Still in the woman's voice, I could hear her say softly through her tears, "I'm sorry." And then a TV test pattern showed up at the end of the video after a cut to a black sequence. Turns out the lovesick, Fatal Attraction-esque woman was the one behind the SpongeCry episode. She was the one at the point that sought after horror film animator who just had a nervous breakdown after she had been dumped, which would explain SpongeBob turning into a ghoul. Creator Steven Hillenburg reported the woman to the police and was scheduled to have her appear in court. She refused to testify against Nickelodeon Animation Studios and later committed suicide out of remorse. I was fortunate enough to delete part 2 of the SpongeCry episode from my iPhone, and since the whole mystery was solved, I was able to get sleep better at night from now on. A little post-mortem advice to the lovesick girl who made Evan's life a living hell. He said he didn't want to have anything to do with you, and he's happy with his new wife and life. When a guy drops your ass, no means no, you stupid bitch.